Hello everyone, I'm Dragons After Dark, and today we'll be going over my Falcosaur Team Rumble strategies for Clear the Catacombs in Suramar. The coordinates and Zufu's links will be in the description, while the rematch string, tdScript, and steps can be found at the provided links. My tips for these fights, and just general tips, are to make sure the Falcosaur you are battling with is summoned before you begin your fight, and that the Falcosaur does not need to be in slot 1, enter the battle, or survive to complete the requirement. Clear the Catacombs is a 3-enemy fight against the Ancient Catacomb Spider, a beast, Catacomb Bat, a flyer, and Catacomb Snake, also a beast. So, let's get started. Okay, first up, we have our Bloodgazer Team Rumble with our Bloodgazer Hatchling. For this team, I have Dodger, Jingles, and of course the Bloodgazer Hatchling. The idea behind this team is to use Uncanny Luck with Dodger to mitigate Call Darkness misses, and use Dodge with Dodger, to avoid being hit by Burrow. And if needed, we can come in with the Bloodgazer Hatchling and clean up. And then Jingles will come in on the Bat to set up booby-trapped presents for the Snake and take them out with Gift of Winter's Veil so that the Bloodgazer has very little to do if it does have to come in. So, let's get started. To begin with, we are going to bite because we know for sure we'll be able to hit him because we're faster. And we're not taking huge damage from Call Darkness. It's not great, but it's not super excessive because beasts take weak damage from it. And we are going to bite one more time because the Catacomb Spider is going to burrow here. And we will dodge. We're going to bite twice more. And it says, my thing says, Uncanny Luck if the Ancient Catacomb Spider's HP is greater than 360, which it is. If it's not, then we would bite. However, it is higher, so we're going to Uncanny Luck, which means this is probably going to kill us. So then it says, if Dodger dies before the spider, bring in your Bloodgazer Hatchling, Predatory Strike, and Savage Talon until the Catacomb Spider dies. However, they are less than 22% health, so Predatory Strike should be more than enough to take them out. And then, no matter who is in, when the bat comes up, you will want to swap over to your Jingles. And then we will booby trap presents here. And while we still have Uncanny Luck up, we will Gift of Winter's Veil while they have Reckless Strike on. And that is almost 100% going to take care of them. So Pounce might miss here. It does occasionally. It didn't this time. If it does miss and Jingles dies, then you'll just bring the Bloodgazer in and once again clean up with them. Once the Snake comes in, you are going to Pounce or Savage Talon if your Bloodgazer is in. And if Jingles is blinded, we're going to pass. But if your Bloodgazer Hatchling is in at that point, you will Falcosaur Swarm. And now all we have to do is, no matter who's in, by turn 3, we're going to Predatory Strike. 3 or 4, because if you Falcosaur Swarm, that's going to be 2 rounds. But that is it for the Bloodgazer. Now we have our Direbeak Team Rumble. And for this team, I have the Renishu Runt, Father Winter's Helper, and the Direbeak Hatchling. So the idea with this team is to change over the Call Darkness with Lightning Storm, which will hit the spider for a lot of damage. Add some dots on there with Swarm of Flies when the spider is burrowed and we can't hit them anyway. And try to finish them off with Zap. However, it doesn't always happen and you will need the Direbeak to come in and clean up. But with the buff to weather as far as Call Blizzard is concerned and buffing elemental abilities, Father Winter's Helper is going to come in, change the weather over from Call Lightning to Call Blizzard. We're going to use the Gift of Winter Veil again to take down the bat quite nicely, and then he can sometimes finish the entire fight. Otherwise, you'll just need to bring the Direbeak in to clean up, but it shouldn't have to do too terribly much. So let's get started. Okay, on to the Direbeak. Because we're slower, we can go ahead and open with Call Lightning. Again, this may or may not hit, which it does, yay. Then we are going to zap. And then, because we hit and we don't have a round 3, we're going to go ahead and swap to the Father Winter's Helper. And thankfully we're slower, so they will go ahead and put their debuff on with Reckless Strike. We'll hit them with that. We become faster, and we'll hit with Call Blizzard, which will again hit with that debuff on, and even if we don't crit, you're still going to see it die there. Now for this one, even if you're blinded, we're still going to Ice Lance because the first one might not hit, but the second one will, as you'll see here. So every little bit of damage counts. But when your Father Winter's Helper is in, you're just going to Ice Lance until he's dead. And then, because I couldn't always guarantee that the runt would survive, you will go ahead and bring in your Direbeak. If Shattered Defenses is up, or if they're below 21, or sorry, not 21, if they're below 25% health, you can go ahead and Predatory Strike. If they're still above 25%, you can Iron Skin, Falcosaur Swarm, and then Predatory Strike. But we're below 25, so we are going to Predatory Strike. And that's it for the Direbeak. Next up, we have our Sharptalon Team Rumble. So for this fight, again, we are using the first pet to change the weather back from Call Darkness to something a little kinder. And then we're going to use Celestial Blessing to bring in our Eye of Corruption during the Burrow round. And the Eye of Corruption is going to make the spider slower, finish it off with Chaos Beam, and then once the bat comes in, we're going to get some of our life back with Life Exchange, make the bat slow, and then Chaos Beam to kill it. And when the Catacomb Snake comes in, we're going to actually swap back to Comet, just so it can eat that blind. And then we're going to Celestial Blessing, bring in our Eye of Corruption. Sometimes it can finish off the snake, sometimes you do need to bring in the Sharptalon hatchling to clean up, but that should be the only thing you need it to clean up against. So let's get started. We are going to Starfall because we're slower, and the spider will Call Darkness first every single time, and then we are going to Celestial Blessing, so that when we swap in our Eye of Corruption, he is not going to take too much damage from the Catacomb Spider. And then we are going to slow them with Eye Blast. And basically, we are just going to Chaos Beam until the spider dies. It should only take 3 hits. So by the time this wears off, it should be dead. When the bat comes in, we are going to Life Exchange. We will Eye Blast, which should bring them below 50% HP, especially with that on. And then we will Chaos Beam until it dies, which is the very first round. Now we are going to swap to Comet, who is going to eat the blinding poison. We are going to Celestial Blessing. And if Comet dies here, you will just bring in your Eye of Corruption. If Comet doesn't die, you will swap to your Eye of Corruption. And at this point, you are just going to Chaos Beam until it dies. We could have life exchanged, but there's no real reason for it. We're faster. And even if we take the blind here, and we can't do anything, and it kills us, we can bring in our Sharptalon hatchling, and anything's gonna kill it, pretty much. But we will go for the big hit and Predatory Strike. We even got an unnecessary crit, and that's it for the Sharptalon. And last up, we have our Snowfeather hatchling. So for this one, I am always willing to use an enemy's weather against them. So here we're going to prowl Spectral Strike because the spider is going to be nice enough to bring up Call Darkness for us. And then we will clean up with the Snowfeather hatchling for that. And then once the bat comes in, again, we're going to we're not using anything against it necessarily. We will prowl in Spirit Spikes, which is always a favorite of mine against flyers. And while this flyer doesn't have a multi-hit ability, I still like to use it here because they have an increased damage percentage debuff that they put on themselves when they use Reckless Strike, so it still works out really well here. And then the two cats will basically pounce until they're dead, and then the Snowfeather will clean up on the snake. So let's get started. So because the spider is going to be so kind and put Call Darkness up for us already, we will prowl. Spectral Strike. Isn't it funny when their own moves end up working horribly for them? Okay, after Spectral Strike, we're going to swap to the Snowfeather. We're going to crouch, which should really mitigate that burrow damage because it's going to be weak against the Snowfeather. And we will Falcosaur Swarm. It might take the Predatory Strike as well, just because we are dealing with darkness hits. But we don't have to worry about that here. So once the bat comes in, we are going to swap over to the Cursed Vermin. We will prowl. Spirit Spikes. And then pounce. And that's it for that one. So we will pounce here until the Cursed Vermin dies for good, which is now. And then we are going to bring in the Snowfeather hatchling. You can just keep pouncing with Widget if you want to save the Snowfeather, but it's not super duper necessary. So we are going to Falcosaur Swarm. And then if you really need to, you can bring Widget in to clean up at the end, but I don't think we're gonna need it. We're gonna Predatory Strike, and then Falcosaur Swarm should clean up for us. And even when we lose the flying buff, we're still faster, so it all works out in the end. And that's it. You've won all your fights for your Falcosaur Team Rumble against Clear the Catacombs in Suramar. Congratulations! If there's another fight you'd like to see a video of, or if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Until next time, I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you for stopping by, and happy battling!